Okay, so I'm living the RV life in my Isuzu rodeo at a RV repair shop. Um, my cat is doing very poorly. Both my dogs are doing very poorly. Um, the night that I spent last at the campground, which would be now 2 nights ago, was brutal for them. For some reason, caffeine in my system, windows enough open, whatever it was, they could not put me down. But not for lack of trying. They went full force with the drugging. And when they do that, and then my heat went out, the anesthesia causes hypothermia. I can feel that in my body. I can feel that with my animal. I mean, I can see that with my animals. I can feel their ears and how cold they are, and their nose, their feet. And for my approximately 9 pounds, between 8 and probably more 8 pounds now, cat, it's just too brutal. It's too much toxin. It's too much, just too much toxin. And he has been struggling to eat. Miho, my dog, is also struggling to eat. Vita, who's snoring over here, does not struggle to eat. She has actually, from sometimes when she's been super gassed. But she kind of actually has been not wanting to eat her food. I think part of that has to do with the food that they bring in when they come in. Because they're definitely not losing weight, but yet they're, and she's consuming a lot of cat food. I have to factor everything in, but when they barely eat dinner and then I go to sleep and she doesn't get to the cat food and then I wake up in the morning and they just poop so much, that's not from food I gave them. And I'm 100% sure that she feeds them when she comes in to garner their, so they'll like her. Because at the end of the day, don't forget that this crazy, insane rapist is doing this a lot because she just wants to be liked. I think for the first time in her life, she has something that other people want besides herself, like giving her body away. And her ability to have me gang raped and tortured and do this extraordinary thing that most people have never even heard of, or you get around the sick enough people in a group that like to do that kind of stuff. She's like the queen bee. So, anyhow, we are an RV repair shop on the coast of Oregon. As usual, I'm going to keep things vague. Everything that they are helping me to fix, I paid for already in the price of the vehicle. That was the condition that I gave verbally when I bought this vehicle. And now I'm being told, basically to go screw myself by the person that sold it to me, which is pretty fucked up. So I may be able to take a hot shower for the first time in my RV since I've owned it. Basically, the repair was not that severe. Something that the guy that sold it to me for the $30K for my 92 Isuzu Rodeo could have checked out within minutes and seen for himself and figured out, but he didn't even bother to do that. Yeah, so a lot of old stuff that should have been replaced. Again, I explicitly said that, and I'm not stupid because I've researched these things, that these vehicles don't go for $30K. There may be a few guys out there that, sell these things for $30K, but for the most part, they don't go for that much. Especially not in this condition, and especially if you're not going to guarantee mechanically functional vehicles and house function. And that's why I paid the $30K. I know it sounds dumb because even at that, I think I overpaid. But I was willing to do that out of desperation of just having a vehicle that I could take off in, use, live in, because I knew that if I get trapped if things don't work, if things fall apart, if things, don't run like I got stranded for 4 hours after I bought it, that these people are going to be after me. And I didn't want that, and that's what happened. And the delays and the weeks and weeks that have gone by in repairing it and then saying, well, I don't do that, that's not covered. Um, that's really bad business practice. It just is. You don't really want to screw people like that. Um, it's not really fair. And it's just not ethical or moral. I mean, I don't know. People have choices of the way they live their lives. And when you take something like this to an average RV place, they're never going to have seen, like, there's just the chances of they're never going to have seen this vehicle before, which is difficult then. And it takes more time and more money. And the parts, although he guaranteed, oh, they're all, American parts, not really in the way that, this is a very specific Japanese vehicle. So, you're going to look for handles for this or, you know, whatever. It's not necessarily you're going to be able to just walk into anywhere and just grab it. Um, that's why I bought it from him, because he guaranteed that he would be able to, work on these things, that he would make sure this vehicle was up and running and ready to go. And there was some confusion with timing and stuff, but when you drop 30K on somebody, and you buy it and, then, to make me, delay weeks and weeks and weeks and, oh, I have other projects. I bet you none of those people dropped 30K on him. But yet he put me at the back of the list every time. And then I got the bus and I, think that he told me he'd be able to fix that. And, now it's been sitting there for weeks. I mean, nothing has gotten me to the front of the line, and all those delays work only in these people's favor. So, I think there's one thing that people that help these people, and I'm not saying he did because I don't have proof of that. I don't know that. I just know how this game works, so there's a lot of whatever. Is that, like my neighbors in Hawaii that helped to facilitate by helping with surveillance and all those things. When I went to the police officer and talked to and had a detective sit down with me about my rape kit and everything, I asked him, if this person, say my neighbor, and I named them to him, and say that neighbor is helping to provide surveillance, through their Wi-Fi, whatever, because it had to be somebody close because I didn't have Wi-Fi. Didn't have any internet connection in the house. So in order for them to have surveillance, it had to have been somebody nearby. They had to have done surveillance. It blew up my electrical system. When I went to sell my house, suddenly eight of my light fixtures, my fans were all broken. And that's because they had put surveillance in them and they had to take them out. And they didn't want to have to put them back together and do whatever they wanted me to pay for it. Didn't make sense. Eight light fixtures are going to break all at the same time. And that's what I was told, and I did. I had to, buy all new light fixtures, which, in selling the house, that wasn't something I hadn't considered anyways doing, but it was proof and evidence of that. And they had jerry-wired the electrical box to bring in more voltage than the house actually could take. I did fix that by upgrading the electrical before I sold it, but up until that point, after they blew up my box, they jerry-wired it so it could take in more electricity, and that was found by the electricians, and all that is evidence and proof of what they were doing, but yet nobody to report that to. And I was paying for them to surveil me by paying a doubled electric bill after my electrical box blew up. They replaced it twice to see if that would alleviate that, because they had no explanation for it. All they said was something is on your system that's causing it to bring in this much energy. And, do I have air conditioning? None of that. Nothing had changed. But yet, suddenly I was paying double. And, they tried excuses like, oh, well, this starts going up or this or that. It didn't make sense. My parents, who had way more electrical stuff on, like a TV, a huge TV, computers, fax machine, like all this stuff, and their bill was lower than mine. And I lived like how many minute walk from them. So anyhow, So this is where I'm at right now. The RV is a fucking mess. It just is. And, you know, it's incredibly frustrating, and I'm sitting in an RV parking lot that has video footage, but will they come in? Probably, because they can't not. There's this addiction to this. There's this need to, prolifically just assault me and abuse me and rape me and sodomize me and torture my body. And I mean, this, for them, it has to be every day. And I saw them driving around last night. When I got up at 1 out of the blue, I just woke up and took off to go try to find cat food. Oh yeah, immediately there were vehicles out there. There was one right outside waiting in the parking lot. So, there you go. But I'm not inaccessible to them for tonight, and we'll see how tonight goes. But they are making my animals so sick that I have to make decisions about that, because it's not my fault, but inaction is, it is what it is, you know? And you know, I'm, you know, it's not fair to them for them to have to live like this. Vita's too old for this. It's crazy. Like, she's aged so much recently. It's just, it's so nuts. I mean, and they're always so thirsty, and they never want to drink the water in here. And I know it's because the chemical falls in the air and it goes into the water, and you know, I can keep refilling it and dumping it and refilling it and dumping it, but since it's constant, you know. Anyhow, this video is probably getting to the point where it needs to end, but I just want to update because this is my way. You know, you're asking me why I make these videos, because I need what things like this need, and anybody who's been through trauma, abuse, torture, rape, you need to have somebody bear witness, because when you're in it alone, it's just necessary to bear witness. It's necessary to have a witness, and since I don't have one, and I don't know how else to do this, this is why I do this. I know how I look. It sucks. And when I look at my eyes and see how glassy they are, and like right now I can feel my vision getting more and more cloudy. And I slept a lot. I fell asleep at 7 o'clock last night. So, I mean, and I woke to hearing men's voices right outside my RV. I don't know what time that was. I don't know who that was. I don't know. And I couldn't stir. I couldn't wake. And even though I set my alarm for 9 p.m., which would be a couple hours after I fell asleep when I started feeling super tired, so I could wake up and go get cat food before the stores closed, and yeah, so, but, and that's the thing, you want to say, there's video cameras out here, yeah, but people have to watch it, and people don't spend, I know from having to watch hours and hours and hours of video, that you don't do that on a regular basis. You only watch, like in places like businesses, they're only going to ever look at their security systems if they can see something went wrong. You know, they're not going to just like every day go through their video footage. People don't do that. It's time consuming. It's a lot more time consuming than anybody who doesn't know anything about those things thinks, you know. It's very time consuming. So anyhow, we're here. I'm hoping for a better night, but my dogs are so broken that, especially a younger one, like, I just don't ever see him happy anymore, and yeah, anyhow, I gotta cut the video because it's too long, but I'm on the coast of Oregon. I'm in an RV repair shop parking lot. This is me being able to have something bear witness to where I am and the threat I'm under tonight and what I'll be fighting against as usual. Okay.